Sun Yufeng clicked the button to open the machine containing the 3 cyan tigers, commencing the observation and examination process while the others stayed back to watch. Mr. Ning specifically instructed Meng Keo and Zushi to closely observe the professor's dissecting techniques and attempt to learn from the process. When Sun Yufeng raised his hand, the knives placed on his sleeves began to rumble. He then suddenly pointed his fingers towards the cyan tigers, and the knives obediently followed and rushed towards the cyan tigers as well, seemingly under his control. The knives were indeed under Sun Yufeng's control, allowing him to dissect the 3 cyan tigers without physically touching them, showcasing his extraordinary skill and precision. Zushi wondered if it was telekinesis, while Meng Keo speculated if it was tricentral focus. Both of them were thoroughly impressed by Sun Yufeng's extraordinary technique. While Meng Keo and Zushi observed closely, the 2 arrogant men were vomiting due to the gruesome scene, clearly unable to handle the intensity of the dissection. Meanwhile, Sun Yufeng raised both hands again, pointing to the shelves, and the knives returned to their designated places, signaling the completion of the dissection. At this juncture, Sun Yufeng informed them that he would now proceed with his conclusion, transitioning from the dissection to the analysis of his findings. Based on the preliminary assessment, Sun Yufeng stated that rabies was suspected to be the potential cause of the biogenetic pet's aggressive behavior and tragic incidents. With that conclusion, Zushi confidently asserted that she was sure it was not Soulforge's fault, making her stance loud enough for others to hear. However, Sun Yufeng mentioned that there were no bite marks from the other monsters or traces of virus infestations on the carcasses, suspecting that there was a problem during the pet's modulation process. After that, Sun Yufeng asked if there were any objections from Soulforge's side, opening the floor for any opinions or additional insights. It appeared that Soulforge was still the one to blame regarding the incident. In response, Mr. Ning gathered Meng Keo and Zushi to discuss their opinions. Zushi suspected that perhaps Skyward had bribed Sun Yufeng beforehand. However, it was impossible since they clearly could not afford him. Meng Keo contemplated Senior Gao's certainty that someone must have poisoned the pets. Additionally, he believed that Senior Gao would not make a mistake. The lingering question was how the pets were poisoned. Meng Keo wondered if it was through a thread, their food, or perhaps their daily use items. All of a sudden, an idea suddenly flashed in his mind. Now certain, Meng Keo believed that the pets were poisoned through their ear canals. He immediately asked Sun Yufeng to check for needle holes in their ear canals. However, Sun Yufeng grew angry, perceiving it as an underestimation of his skills. But Meng Keo remained undeterred. He persisted, urging the professor to open the ear canals of all the tigers to thoroughly investigate and confirm the presence of needle holes. In response, Sun Yufeng grew even angrier, blaming Ning Shuo for supposedly teaching Meng Keo arrogance by questioning his skills, escalating the tension in the room. Undeterred by the professor's anger, like Meng Keo, Mr. Ning stood firm. He politely requested Sun Yufeng to follow Meng Keo's suggestion, emphasizing his trust in Keo's judgment. With a consensus forming among those present, the professor had no other choice but to comply with their request. Once again, Sun Yufeng controlled the knives to cut the ears open, revealing a tiny hole that resembled a hole caused by a needle. Sun Yufeng and the others were all surprised by their discovery, which seemed to be aligned with Meng Keo's suspicion of poisoning through the ear canals. Curious about Meng Keo's deductive reasoning, Sun Yufeng inquired how he arrived at the idea. Meng Keo chose not to explain his thought process, but simply stated to the professor that he had no further objections. After the investigation, everyone signed a confidentiality agreement and returned to their respective residences. However, as Meng Keo scrolled through his phone, he discovered news articles about the Celestial Garden Estate pet homicide, potentially unveiling more information related to the ongoing investigation. Some of the articles circling on social media even contained photos of the victims. Suddenly, Meng Keo discovered something unusual about the corpses of the victims, prompting a shift in the focus of his investigation. He immediately sat up in bed and called Miss Sia. He apologized first for probably disturbing her for calling so late in the hour before telling what he discovered with the corpses. The next day at the Agricultural University Cafeteria 3, students focused on their meals, chatting and laughing between bites. Suddenly, in the midst of things, Zaifeng turned to Meng Keo and asked bluntly about his connection with Jiara Wu and how far their relationship had progressed. Responding to Zai Feng, Jiara Wu shared that their relationship had reached a point where, after training and meals, she simply lay next to him, finding peaceful sleep in his company. Out of nowhere, Sunya rushed towards Meng Keo, visibly upset, expressing her anger and disappointment, as she never expected him to be that kind of person. Adding to her outburst, she slammed the table and pointed accusingly at Meng Keo, labeling him a scumbag in her frustration, while Meng Keo just eats peacefully. Even Zai Feng, disappointed, accused Meng Keo of mistreating the sweet Jiara Wu. However, Meng Keo insisted, maintaining that they were nothing more than really good friends. He then turned to Jiara Wu and petted her head, creating such a comfortable atmosphere that Jiara Wu even purred with contentment instead of supporting Meng Keo's claims. Meng Keo, noticing Jiara Wu's continued purring, encouraged her to stop and instead say something to convince everyone that they were just good friends. Finally, Jiara Wu spoke up, declaring to everyone at the table that, to her, Meng Keo was just like her ghost leopard, they were her best friend. Turning her attention to Meng Keo, Sunya pointedly blamed him, stating that it was all his fault for not explaining things more clearly. With the previous issue resolved, Zai Feng shifted the conversation to the upcoming debate with the engineering students that afternoon, asking Meng Keo if he wanted to join in. The debate should be done because ever since the incident at the Celestial Garden Estate, the students from Engineering University have been bad-mouthing their university. Regrettably, Meng Keo informed Zai Feng that he wouldn't be able to join the debate due to an important appointment scheduled for that afternoon. Suddenly, while they were outside, a sleek and fancy red car zoomed by at a rapid speed, catching everyone's attention. Screeching its tires, the car came to a sudden stop in front of the group, and its fancy-looking door opened slowly, revealing an air of mystery. All of a sudden, a stunning girl, with an undeniably beautiful figure, gracefully emerged from the car, capturing everyone's attention. It was Miss Sia. She then asked Meng Keo what he was waiting for and urged him to hop into the car. Jiara Wu appeared angry at Miss Sia's presence, while the others in the group were left wondering about the unfolding situation. Meng Keo then hopped into the car, urging everyone to go ahead and promising to catch up once he was done with his tasks. Finally, he waved good luck to his friends before the car sped away, leaving the rest of the group with curious expressions. In the car, Meng Keo acknowledged Miss Sia's wealth, however. He also advised her to be more low-key when trying to meet him again. However, in Miss Sia's defense, she explained that the car was actually the cheapest and most low-profile one in their household. Hearing that, Meng Keo seemed embarrassed, realizing why Lin Chuan felt that she and her family were too different from the rest of the people around them. Miss Sia finally dropped the nonsense topic and brought up the matter of the strange wounds that Meng Keo discovered on the victims' bodies. Upon getting out of the car, Miss Sia urged Meng Keo to carefully examine the wounds on all three bodies, hoping they could uncover any clues. Meanwhile, Meng Keo wondered why they needed to conduct the examination themselves when Exhib had experts for the job. It turned out that Miss Sia hadn't reported it to them. The bodies had been sent for an autopsy, but the judicial court took over the case due to potential involvement with Exalted. With an hour and 44 minutes left, they had limited time to examine the bodies before they were scheduled to be sent to the Exalted Tower. Meng Keo then decided to continue with what needed to be done and asked for her assurance that she would cover for him if something went wrong. All of a sudden, Meng Keo noticed it was too dark in there for sunglasses, indirectly questioning the need for Miss Sia to be wearing them. However, Miss Sia explained to him that her earrings and sunglasses were specially made for her to shield her from getting excessive information. On their way to the bodies, they discovered guards securing the area. They hid behind a wall as Meng Keo asked Miss Sia what their next move should be. In response, Miss Sia pushed Meng Keo's head against the wall, telling him not to worry and to leave it all to her. Tapping her forehead with 2 fingers, she began channeling her power. As if cloaked in a spell, they walked past the guards without being noticed, their presence going completely unnoticed. Not only does she have status, money, and ambition, Miss Sia now possesses mind control. Meng Keo contemplated that indeed she should not be underestimated. He realized he could collaborate with Miss Sia in investigating the demon gods, but he understood the importance of being cautious. All of a sudden, Meng Keo noticed that Miss Sia seemed to intentionally drop 2 brown envelopes as they were walking, sparking curiosity in him. Meng Keo promptly informed Miss Sia that she had dropped something. She then revealed to Mankeo that it was a payment for the guards, shocking him as he hadn't been aware of the arrangement. He thought that she hypnotized them. Miss Sia argued that hypnotizing them was unnecessary when she could solve things with her money. However, Mankeo still wondered why she had channeled her power earlier. Miss Sia then revealed that she wasn't trying to hypnotize them. Instead, she was simply doing eye exercises because she had been sleep-deprived lately. Continuing their task, Mankeo slowly lifted up the white blanket covering the bodies. And just as he expected, there was something wrong with Jin Yangkang's corpse. He seemed to have put up little resistance before dying, with very few scratch marks evident. Mankeo speculated that the pet might have bitten him in the throat to cause the fatal injury. However, he questioned how a crazed pet could execute such a precise attack. It even intentionally gnawed on the fatal wound on the victim's neck to mask it, so that people would not think it was sane. Miss Sia immediately grasped Mankeo's speculation that the biogenic pet had destroyed evidence and tampered with the crime scene. However, he admitted that he had no definitive evidence to support his speculation. But it didn't really matter to Miss Sia because she trusted Mankeo's instincts. On the other hand, Miss Sia had already gathered some information about the Celestial Garden estate last night. Firstly, the 3 berserk biogenetic pets were infected with an entirely new subtype of the rabies virus. Secondly, the biogenetic pet that attacked Jin Yangkang had the virus inside its body, but there were no traces of viral injection through the ear canal. Thirdly, Jin Yangkang was an employee of Skyward, and coincidentally, Skyward and Soulforge were competing for an order that could bring them a fortune. Mankeo then figured out that the rabies variant infecting the 3 berserk biogenetic pets was an entirely new subtype. All of a sudden, the mission regarding the mysteries of the demon gods progressed 1%, making the current progress 2%. He was right. This case was related to the demon gods. Miss Sia believed that the matter held great research value. She urged Mankeo that they had to uncover the truth before the judicial court did. He asked her why they couldn't share the information with the judicial court and cooperate with the Shadow Sentinels. She explained that Exib had already undermined their power. Besides, there are formidable individuals within the Shadow Sentinels, and the small needle marks deep in the ear canal were discovered by one of their young experts. She thinks that person has likely used the trick before since they know such subtle techniques. They were not just a harvester, that person was a top-notch assassin. Mankeo couldn't help but feel proud hearing how Miss Sia described the person who was actually himself. He then advised Miss Sia not to buy that kind of information next time, even though it was obvious she had a lot of money. Miss Sia, carried away by her emotions, turned to Mankeo, grabbed him by the collar, and asked if he knew who that formidable person from the Shadow Sentinels was. Mankeo admitted that he was well acquainted with that person, but told her that he couldn't disclose their identity. With that, Miss Sia finally decided to leave the place. Mankeo asked her where they were going. She then revealed to him that she had someone checking the whereabouts of the 3 victims within the last month. Since Mankeo suspected Jin Yangkang, she decided to go check out the places he frequented. Their search led them to a location near Draken City Landfill 4. Miss Sia told Mankeo that was the place they needed to investigate. That was the place Jin Yangkang had frequented, and also the last place he should be at. Both of them seemed to observe the place from the outside first before going in. They finally went in, and there was no problem getting in since there were no guards, which made Mankeo a bit suspicious. Miss Sia, on the other hand, was eager to confront the individuals responsible for the case. All of a sudden, Mankeo noticed that the landfill was currently under attack. He immediately urged Miss Sia to head towards the disturbance to offer their help. The landfill was being attacked by a horde of wild rats. The crews dealing with the wild rats worked to keep everyone safe. One of them had already alerted the Exalted Tower and the Vermilion Dragons. On the other hand, one of them advised the others to put their guns away, suggesting that it was more effective to stomp the rats down with their feet. They seemed to be having a difficult time dealing with the wild rats, as there were too many of them swarming around the tunnel. Miss Sia focused and channeled her inner power. After some time, the aura around her lit up, and the ground shattered at her will which made the wild rats run away. The crew were all shocked by her sudden appearance and interruption. Meanwhile, Mankeo helped Miss Sia make the rats go away by using fire to kill them, causing the remaining rats to scatter. After resolving the problem with the wild rats, the crew remained puzzled about what Mankeo and Miss Sia had done. Finally, they came to realize that Menkeo and Miss Sia were Exalta, and they had indeed come to save them. Miss Sia asked who was in charge to explain the situation. The supervisor willingly presented himself, appearing excited to tell her what was going on. He then explained that those rats should have been the ones that hid there during the last monster invasion. However, for some reason, they suddenly went berserk and rushed out from underground. Menkeo believed that normally these rats wouldn't try to attack humans. However, their nervous systems seemed to have been damaged by a virus, possibly a mutated form of rabies. Miss Sia and the landfill supervisor suddenly turned to face Menkeo. The supervisor was curious about what he was blabbering about regarding viruses and mutations. At that point, Miss Sia asked the supervisor if he happened to see Jin Yankyang there, as he should have been there recently. The little girl looked at the picture and finally remembered seeing him either last week or the week before. She told them that he was acting suspiciously, wandering around the garbage mountain at night. He also wounded his hand, so she helped him bandage it, but Mr. Citroslai came and he ran away before she could finish. After that, Menkeo asked the supervisor if they found any missing sandworms. However, he acted like he didn't know and told him that they had never had any sandworms there. Miss Sia brought out another envelope, telling the supervisor it would be his if he shared all he knew. She promised that he would not be implicated in the mess. The supervisor suddenly remembered what really happened. About 4 or 5 sandworms suddenly went berserk. They escaped through the nearby sewage pipes. Menkeo asked him why he did not go after them. The supervisor explained that the reason behind it was the sewage may contain highly toxic or corrosive residue. Members of Soulforge didn't dare to investigate deeper due to the potential dangers. All of a sudden, Miss Sia patted Menkeo's shoulder and he turned to face her behind. She then urged him to go deeper and investigate thoroughly if he thought that this was related to the Celestial Garden Estate. They told the crew they could go now and thanked them for their cooperation. Meanwhile, Miss Sia was about to go down the hole that led to the sewage. Down the sewage, the smell was very bad. Menkeo suggested Miss Sia wait outside since, as a feeler, the smell must be more unpleasant for her. It was really obvious from the way she looked that she was suffering from the extent of the unpleasant smell, but she was enduring it. She was eager to uncover the mastermind behind the White Ghost's production in order to climb Exhib's ranks. It was a perfect opportunity for her to gain their trust. Besides, she has to fulfill Lin Chuan's last wish and revolutionize Draken. But she would do it on her own. She would not be stopped by any minor difficulties. Menkeo pitied Miss Sia. He thought that although she was ambitious, she truly cared about his brother, Lin Chuan. Menkeo figured out that the giant mutated sandworms were more than 2 or more than 3 meters in body width based on the markings left in the sewage. However, regular giant sandworms should be between 1.5 to 2 meters. All of a sudden, something awful affected Menkeo, causing him to groan. Subsequently, a roaring, probably coming from a monster, suddenly echoed inside the sewage. Its unpleasant smell also flooded the area. This caused Menkeo to gain 2% of mission progress at once. He contemplated that finding the sewage pipes might be the key to the mission, but he wondered about the connection. Miss Sia suddenly told Menkeo that they were still kind of lucky since the giant sandworms were relatively docile and submissive. When he looked afar, he noticed that there were creatures hiding in the dark. In the shadows, eyes aglow with an eerie crimson hue peered out, fixating on Menkeo and Miss Sia as if they held a profound and ancient malevolence. Menkeo inquired Miss Sia about the identity of those mysterious creatures. Turns out, the eyes belonged to the wild rats they had dealt with earlier. Menkeo immediately wielded his weapon, slicing off as many wild rats as he could in swift and precise movements. All of a sudden, a giant sandworm emitted a squeaking sound, capturing their attention. Menkeo immediately identified that the squeaking giant sandworm was one of the ones that had escaped from Soulforge. Judging from the level of decomposition, it had been dead for at least a week. He hoped that they could still find something useful from its remains. All of a sudden, the ground started shaking. Miss Sia thought it was an earthquake. Meanwhile, Menkeo suggested that there was no need to continue further since they had already found the remains of a giant sandworm. They would examine the remains first. Miss Sia tried to argue with Menkeo, but he reminded her of the consequences of her previous recklessness. Miss Sia suddenly shivered upon hearing Meng Kao blaming her recklessness, as she believed it was Lin Chuan and the White Spectre's doings. But Meng Kao insisted that Lin Chuan and the White Spectre had just taken advantage of her recklessness. All of a sudden, the giant sandworm moved. Luckily, Meng Kao and Miss Sia were quick to dodge the danger. Meng Kao held Miss Sia's hand tightly, ensuring that he wouldn't lose her amidst the sudden danger. The sandworm did not stop, and it continued to chase them, so they both ran even quicker. While running from the giant sandworm, Miss Sia couldn't help but wonder aloud about how the creature had grown so large. Meng Kao, responding with sarcasm, questioned how he was supposed to have that answer and urged her to focus on running faster. With an unclear intention, Meng Kao took out his rope and made it circle around Miss Sia's waist. He then commanded her to keep on running, explaining that he couldn't hold out any longer. However, Miss Sia told him that she couldn't run anymore. In that case, acknowledging the need to change their approach, they decided to stop running and face the giant sandworm head-on. Meng Kao knew that the weakness of the sandworm-like monsters is the pharyngeal ganglion where the esophageal nerve and the ventral nerve cord connect. Only by damaging the pharyngeal ganglion can they stop its rampage. Meng Kao requested Miss Sia's assistance to help hold open the giant sandworm's mouth. Miss Sia immediately channeled her power to provide the assistance Meng Kao needed to hold open the giant sandworm's mouth. At her will, rocks moved and pierced through the worm's mouth, preventing it from closing. She also told Meng Kao to hurry up because she could not hold it for long. Meng Kao made use of his rope, unleashing his inner power that ran through the ropes to the two swords attached to it. He directed the power through the worm's mouth, targeting a vulnerable part of the creature. All of a sudden, the worm started gurgling. Suddenly aware of the potential danger, Meng Kao swiftly instructed Miss Sia to duck, anticipating a possible outcome from the worm's behavior. After a few seconds, green fluid mixed with other materials gushed out from the giant sandworm's mouth. The sandworm has mutated into a mess, which is why Meng Kao was having a really hard time locating its pharyngeal ganglion. Undeterred, he didn't give up, and shortly after, he finally found it. With a smile on his face, Meng Kao wasted no time and directed his swords to pierce the vulnerable part of the giant sandworm, expecting victory with his every move. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to contribute further, you can now buy me a coffee. Every little bit helps in creating more quality content for you. Just click the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video.